call the meeting to order. I've just been given the thumbs up from down the end. Before I do introductions, I would just like to advise everybody that this is a public meeting and it is being live streamed. To apologise. I will do a few introductions to start with. My name is Tony Locke. I'm a councillor for the east of Yeovil and South Somerset area, and I've been a member of the council for many, many years. On my right, I have Councillor Simon Coles from Taunton, and on my left, Councillor Hugh Davis from Willerton. No, I haven't been corrected, so I must be right there. And I will just now ask the officers to introduce themselves on my right-hand side, starting at the top, please.
Angie's at Legal Advisor. Rachel Lloyd, Licensing Officer.
Okay, that's lovely. That's the only introductions on my sheet that I've been asked to make at this moment in time. I will follow my crib sheet, and then I won't get my wrist smacked by the officers present and the legal officer. My next point is that I will confirm that if a party is not present, their representative. Yeah, I'll come back. Yeah, as my vice chair has pointed out to me, I will do that shortly after I finish this part, and that the chair will confirm that if a party is not present, their representation stroke application will be read and taken into account in reaching the decision. So that's a point for any persons that wish to speak, any parties. And I would like also for each party to introduce themselves, and I will start with over there, sir, if you could introduce yourself.
My name's Ian Lyons. I'm the Director of TIU Event Security Consultancy.
My name is Jonathan Lamonier, and I am the person proposing to hold the boxing event in Wincanton.
Thank you, gentlemen. And on my left.
Good morning, I am Nicola King and I am the Police Licensing Officer.
Morning, Akil Farouk, I am the Force Alcohol Licensing Sergeant.
As elected members, I must ask, is there any registrable interest that any members sitting on the top table or officers have to declare with this application?
No.
Colleague next to you?
No.
No, thank you. And Nicola for the police?
No, thank you.
We'll need to inform you all that the hearing will take the form of a round-the-table discussion, which will be led by the subcommittee, which is the three of us at the top, in accordance with this procedure. If all parties present confirm that they have seen and understood the procedure to be followed before we start the hearing and agree that they are ready to proceed, then the hearing will commence.
I am, yes.
And Nicola, on behalf of the police?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I understand there's the applicant has asked for some more documents to be produced, but it's only just received today, I believe. Is that correct? So obviously, if you're wishing to see these documents, then we would need an adjournment. But if you feel it's too late due to the time that they're submitted.
I will be guided by yourself, and you obviously have seen the documents.
No, I haven't seen. I've just been advised now. I understand.
I'll ask the licensing officer, who has obviously seen the paperwork?
No, I haven't seen any additional paperwork that's been submitted today. I understand the information's been only given to the police, so we haven't had any opportunity to review any additional documentation other than that's been provided with the report.
Right. All I can do then is, with legal advice, is just say that I would just ask that we have a short adjournment so that the committee and the officers can read it. And I can't see any other
It's up
option.
to you, so you can refuse to have due to the lateness of the documents. I believe they're quite large, about 20, oh, that's all I'm aware of. Can you just, have you got them there, just to show us roughly what?
Yeah, I've got quite a few of them in a hard copy. Unfortunately, I've been helping my mother move house this weekend, so I was only able to produce all of these, create all of this for 6 hours last night, and finish them off this morning, and then send them over this morning. Otherwise, I would have done it sooner. But I only had the meeting on Friday, early Friday, and Gary asked me for some documents as well as Nicola, and I've got them to her as fast as I could.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to rule now as chair, and rightly or wrongly, at this last minute, at the death, at the 99th hour, I will not have an adjournment on advice from legal and the quantity of the documents. I'm sorry, I can't allow them to be submitted to the committee for consideration. Everyone in the room that the purpose of the hearing should be borne in mind at all times to enable those with a right to appear, which I believe I have done, their written application or representation apart from the, and this is me ad-libbing, the late documents which I refuse to accept at this late stage. And it is also all the paperwork has been there to assist the subcommittee to gather evidence and understand the relevant issues. And it's refer back to these late documents. It must be borne in mind that all applications need to be in time and all paperwork for due consideration to be able to be given by all parties. Are you happy with that, gentlemen? On my right, on my left?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry. Thank you. Would the all parties just, by a show of hands or just a quick nod or a yay, just say that they're all understood the procedure to be followed and they are ready to for us to proceed with the hearings? Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Now, it's my duty to ask the applicant whether they wish to make any amendments to their application with a view to addressing any issues raised by representations.
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Well, we've got the evidence which you've supplied within the agenda, which you have received, and I'm asking you, as the applicant, whether they wish to make any amendments to that application with a view to addressing any issues raised by the representations. Well, the representations are the objections to the, at this moment in time, are to the issuing of a license. And you have said that you wish to introduce some 20 pages of late papers. Is there anything within those 20 pages which you can pray say in a verbal update to members here in relation to the issues raised by the representations?
Thank you very much. I don't believe so. I believe the original police's objection, which was a week ago on Friday, I believe all of the information that I have submitted to yourselves and Rachel, I would like to think that covers all of the angles for the police's objections. The additional 20 papers that has been mentioned was only requested or asked of me in a physical meeting at the venue late Friday morning. So I don't believe that any of them would seriously benefit the application. I believe the information that I've already sent should be enough.
Thank you very much. I will now move on to the order of oral presentation. And I will first on my list is the licensing officer will present their report outlining the details of the application, notice and representations received. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you. So this hearing is in relation to a temporary event notice that we've received to take place at Wincanton Sports Centre on the 12th of August. The original notice that we submitted stated that the timings were from 11 a.m. until midnight. However, since receiving the event management plan and also confirming with Mr. Lamonier the actual timings of the event will start at 5 p.m. so that includes the sale of alcohol and the boxing events, and then going through to last orders at 11 p.m. and then the last service of alcohol will be around 11:30, so all members of the public will be have vacated the premises before midnight. So the event is for the sale of alcohol and regulated entertainment, and boxing is a form of regulated entertainment. We've received an objection from the police which was made within the statutory time limits, and a further point is that the applicant is a personal licence holder as well. In support of the application, Mr. Lamonier has submitted an event safety management plan, risk assessment for crowd issues, along with a response to the objection made by the police, and a letter from the security company. They've also provided information from previous events, which includes the event management plan from that event as well, and these documents form part of the report. So that's my report finished. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Rachel. Before I ask members, my colleagues on my left and right, is there any party in the room who may ask who wish to ask a question of the licensing officer at this point in time? I don't see anyone indicating their wish to speak. Members, Simon, you want to wait for the report? Hugh?
Chair, I'm a bit missed which way you're leading us here. I thought evidence would be given by the applicants, or is that later on? I know we've got it here.
I have my, I have my procedure in front of us that we are following as a subcommittee, and if you have a question that you, as I said, that you wish to ask, and if you've got the list of the procedure of what we're following in front of you, you will see that everything is laid down in that list, and you will have your opportunities. But at this moment in time, is there any question of the licensing officer on what she has just stated?
No, thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much. The responsible authorities will present their case and call any witnesses. Over to you, Nicola.
Thank you. I've made some notes that I will refer to. So if I'm reading, it's just to ensure that I stay on track and don't get sort of misled anywhere away from the points that we want to stick to.
Can I just ask before you do get going, if there's anything you're referring to in the paperwork to assist everyone, just shout out the page number that you're referring to.
Okay, I will. I can confirm, sir, that the representation that is here today is in respect of the application. No further detail has been considered since we met with the applicant on Friday. I can confirm that there was paperwork received at around 9:10 this morning, but we haven't considered that paperwork. So the representation is purely in respect of the paperwork that you've actually got before yourselves today also. On behalf of the Chief of Police, our representation this morning is in respect of an application for a temporary event notice received from Jonathan Michael Lemonnier to permit the sale of alcohol at a boxing show on the 12th to the 13th of August between the hours of 11 a.m. and 12 a.m. I do understand now that those hours have been amended. The capacity for the event has been set at 496 persons. To provide some background, this will be the third event to be held at Wincanton Sports Centre in respect of the boxing show. Unfortunately, the two previous events have resulted in crime and disorder being experienced, which is directly linked to the event and with those persons involved in the disorder being heavily intoxicated. On the 3rd of September 2022, the police were called at approximately 23:10 hours to reports of multiple people fighting at Wincanton Sports Centre, West Hill, Wincanton. There were sounds of cars being kicked and people swearing and shouting. The member of the public reporting this could hear the incident happening from the other side of the field. Further calls were then received regarding this incident, and it materialised that a large fight had occurred in which two males received injuries. Those injuries were so severe that they amounted to grievous bodily harm. Due to this matter still being under investigation and likely to end up in court, I cannot provide any further detail on the investigation at this time. Following this, a further temporary event notice was received on the 20th of April 2023 from Mr. Lemonnier. Due to issues being experienced at the previous event and to support the event organiser, an event plan was requested by the police to ensure that adequate planning had taken place so there would not be a repeat of the disorder that took place in September 2022. Unfortunately, on the 6th of May 2023, the police were called in relation to reports of 15 to 20 people fighting within the car park of King Arthur's Community School, West Hill, Wincanton, which is situated next to the Wincanton Sports Centre. It was reported that someone had been thrown through a fence and that there were approximately 10 security guards trying to break it up, but they were being unsuccessful in doing so. It was also reported that all the people involved have been drinking heavily. This incident occurred at approximately 23:40 hours. Unfortunately, at that time, police officers were not in the immediate area and were unable to attend due to responding to other incidents across the policing district. Following this second incident of disorder, the police contacted both the Wincanton Sports Centre and Mr. Lemonnier. Details were obtained in respect of the management of the event and the security that was in place. From those conversations, it was clear Wincanton Sports Centre had no control over the event, and they informed the police that they were not aware of the plans that were in place for the evening. The Wincanton Sports Centre stated the event was not their responsibility and further stated that all responsibility lies with the boxing club. They confirmed they had supplied 2 members of staff who were not being paid that evening. It was confirmed that there were around 400 to 500 people at the premises, but no actual count was being recorded. There were 12 security operatives employed. I have presented a statement from Sergeant Green, who is not able to be here today, which outlines the incidents I have disclosed and also their concerns. I have additional copies should you wish to see them, but it was sent over last week to the Council. An application has now been received to permit the sale of alcohol at another boxing show for a 13-hour period, which the police believe to be excessive and no doubt will fuel antisocial behaviour. No further detail was received and no event plan was submitted with the temporary event notice. Following the police's representation, communication has taken place between the applicant, Mr Lemonnier, and the police. An event management plan has been submitted, which is almost identical to that of the May 6th event. It is noted that the SIA provision has been increased from 10 to 12 in that plan, but the venue staff has been reduced from 6 to 2. I would clarify that whilst it is stated that the SIA provision has risen on this occasion, the police were informed that there were actually 12 operatives working on the 6th of May. So therefore, if this is the case, no additional measures to promote the licence and objectives have been put into place. It only became apparent when speaking with the applicant that the boxing show is a white-collar boxing event and therefore would not operate within the defined and appropriate rules and guidance for a safe boxing event other than those adopted by Mr Lemonnier. It is clear from the event management plan and documentation that there is no detail provided around the promotion of the licence and objectives and the sale of alcohol. There is no mention of alcohol policies, Challenge 25, refusals, registers, proxy sales, welfare provision, if required through intoxication of alcohol or other substances, drugs policies or safeguarding, to name a few. In correspondence between the applicant and the police, the applicant has suggested that although serious disorder has taken place, his stats suggest that only 3% of his total capacity was involved in serious disorder, and he considered this to be a successful evening. If 3% represents approximately 15 people, what percentage does the applicant believe is acceptable to be involved in any form of disorder? The police consider a 0% to be acceptable. We are all aware of the One Punch Can Kill campaign. At a meeting with the applicant on the 4th of August, the applicant was questioned if he knew what the 4 licensing objectives were, and he stated he was not aware of them. Following the meeting, further documentation was requested from the event organiser in the form of site plans, public liability insurance, boxers waivers, drugs policies, etc. None have been received. It is imperative for public safety issues that a site plan was submitted, as the venue is currently undergoing building work and 2 of the fire exits from the main event area are obstructed. At our visit, the building was not considered to be in a serviceable condition, and therefore these details were immediately forwarded to the Devon and Somerset Fire Service for their attention. There is also no detail around the capacity for the building, especially the main hall, whereby potentially 435 guests will be stood. We have tried to contact the owners of the venue to establish the safe capacity of the venue, to no avail. In conclusion, the police are not satisfied that the issuing of the temporary event notice will promote the licensing objectives. The Wincanton Sports Centre does not have a premise licence, and it is not licensed for boxing, and therefore there are no relevant conditions specific to boxing that can be transferred over to the temporary event notice. The 2 previous events which have taken place, adhering to the same event management plan and the plans submitted to support this event, have resulted in serious crime and disorder fuelled by alcohol intoxication, and I cannot stress enough the seriousness of one of those incidents. White-collar boxing is unregulated, and evidence shows that it can attract crowds which can be difficult to manage. There is little control on who gets the tickets, and these are sold via contact on Facebook, either with the event organiser or any of the competitors, so therefore are sold to friends, family and followers. Tickets can be resold, and we are informed that tickets will be available at the door on the evening if they are not all sold, so no assessment can be made as to who is attending. There is also no mechanism in place to record the capacity of persons within the venue at any one time. Boxing is a real high-risk event and should be managed and delivered through thorough risk assessments. White-collar boxing and amateur boxing bring with them significant risks due to the identity of some of the boxers and their followers. This has been the case at the previous 2 events. Unfortunately, taking into consideration the limitations around temporary event notices and the serious disorder being experienced at the 2 previous events, on this occasion we do not consider the applicant has provided adequate plans or risk assessments to prevent repetition of previous incidents and ensure that the licence and objectives of the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety and the protection of children from harm are upheld and promoted. We therefore request that a counter notice be issued in respect of the application. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Nicola. I take it you've got no witness you want to call to add any more weight to your statement.
So I don't believe so. I believe there's nothing further to add. Thank you.
Right. I now move on to ask, is there any party that has a question? That includes everybody within the room apart from the members at the moment. Do they have any questions for the police representative at this moment in time? Okay. Just state your name for the record.
Okay,
Just
my name is
one-
Ian Lyons. On those two,
Thank you, Ian.
on those two previous incidents that occurred, one with GBH and the other one with antisocial behaviour, I was actually working that night. The information evidence that you received is not quite true to that fact. In fact, a majority of my operatives have body-worn cameras. On the GBH that occurred, we did actually disclose the body-worn footage to the police officers on the scene. Secondly, the antisocial behaviour, we managed to disperse and break the groups up. The police were not present. In fact, it was identified that after we managed to disperse the heavily intoxicated groups, as you said, with the large families, that the police did turn up, didn't even get out their vehicles to identify themselves and drove straight off. Now, if the police are being called, surely they should have been on scene, identified who they were, and to see that there was no further breach of the peace or antisocial behaviour being occurred. As regards to the heavily intoxication, yes, there was an element of alcohol being around, but the two parties that were identified on the latest incident was to do with what we class as family war, one being a family of a traveller community and the others being local around the Oval. Since they have been identified, they have actually been blacklisted from the boxing event or any participation to attend. All I can say is that I've got both body-worn camera footage that can be happily disclosed for further evidence. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ian. Nicola, is there anything, because there was a couple of questions in there, which is throwing doubt regarding the body cameras, the attendance of the police, the evidence being handed over to the police. Can you confirm or reject any of those statements, questions?
So I'm not aware that any detail has been given around the disclosure of the body cam footage, and I don't think we've said that we haven't had that footage. That is under investigation, and I can't talk about that anymore, and that relates to the GBH. So I don't dispute that any body cam footage has not been received. In respect of the detail, that's obviously detail that's taken from our Police 999 system and our police recording system. So those details that have been given by the police is what is actually recorded on our police system. I wasn't there. I'm not aware of what happened that night. I can only go by the facts that are stated in police reports. And I'm not aware of the actions of the police that night. I can't dispute whether that was the case. I'm not aware that that was the case, that they didn't deal with it effectively. But I wasn't there, and I would need to go back to those officers if that was a question. But I don't believe that the actions of the police are why we're here today. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Nicola. I mean, have I missed any points which you raised which you needed clarification on or answering? The police and attendance has been answered about the body cameras and the evidence with ongoing cases. So, I mean, it's obvious that evidence won't be discussed or talked about in public on that. Are you... had an accurate answer to your, basically your questions which you levelled in your sort of comments there on the police report?
I understand that you cannot discuss or disclose because you've got ongoing cases, especially with the GBH. What I will claim on that GBH incident, the security was actually currently inside at that time, clearing people out. And when the altercation did occur, as soon as we received the call, we responded immediately. We dispersed several groups. We did a duty of care. We had paramedics on site. they went over and tried to deal with the victim. Several people were identified. When the police, as I said, later turned up, we handed over all relevant information. The second incident, as I said, again, you cannot disclose, but the reports are saying large antisocial, behaviour that could affect the other communities. It was I wouldn't say isolated incident, it was large, it was a traveller family, the escalation with a local known, I'm not at liberty to disclose, but people from Yeovil, but as I said again, has since been blacklisted from this event, had an altercation that we managed to disperse out to the car park rather than inside, and then we managed to split the groups up. I'm sure, as you said, the operator has got the 999 calls where people are talking. There was a lot of wavering, there was a lot of, well, it was antisocial behaviour, so it's what you'd expect to deal with and what you would expect to hear.
Thank you for that. I'll move on to...
Thank you. So regarding what Nicola has just said, now the objection came in a week ago, Friday. So I received the objection via email. I had to spend most of the weekend kind of reading it in order to come up with a response. So I spent 5 hours on Monday evening coming up with a response. That was the only time I had, and I sent this straight away to Nicola. She has received this information prior to our meeting on Friday. But even in what Nicola has just said, I'm not confident that most of it has been read. Nicola keeps referring to this being our third show. This will actually be our fourth show, okay? And it's stated in the documentation that everybody should have in my response to the police objections. All of the green lightings are my response. And also, there's another piece of documentation that everybody should have, and that's the correspondence of the emails I've had with Nicola. Nicola also mentioned that an event management plan was requested for what was our third show on the 6th of May, and yes, I submitted that on the 20th of April. And I believe Nicola responded by saying, "Thank you very much for the plan, much appreciated. I'll ensure the local policing team are aware of the event." Now, sadly, that evening the police were doing their local rounds in Wincanton, checking on all of the pubs, and they were confused why all of the pubs were empty. And it was the local landlords that told the on-duty officers that evening, I believe one of the officers being called Jason, I don't have his badge number unfortunately, they were totally unaware of the boxing event on the 6th of May. They didn't even know. The only way they found out is by speaking to the pubs. So I believe there's been either miscommunication from Nicola's behalf and the on-duty police officers for our third event, so they were totally unaware of that evening. Also, going back to Nicola's percentages, in actual fact, again, in my response, you'll quite clearly see the numbers that have attended our last 3 events, and it actually transpires with the numbers that have been there and the numbers of people suspected to be involved.
You to stick to, as far as you can, to relevant questions, because you will get the application to put your case later on in further in the proceedings. So if you could.
Okay. So let's just stick to facts. So Friday I met with Nicola and 2 PCSOs and a gentleman called Gary. The fire exits were under question. I went up to the venue yesterday. I believe that Gary put a complaint in against fire exits, so they're all completely clear. And regarding trying to identify the exact numbers within the building, which is what Nicola suggested, myself and Ian have discussed we're going to have an SIA operative on the door with a clicker, so we know exactly how many people will be in the building. I believe that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Lemonnier. Is there anything you want to respond to? Because there are a couple of things there which sort of possibly needs clarifying.
So regarding the third, fourth show, I believe, is this the third show at Wincanton Sports, or is it your fourth show at Wincanton Sports Centre? It's your fourth. Well, I do apologise. I'm aware of 3 shows at the Sports Centre, 3 or 4. The police were aware of those. Details are always forwarded to the local neighbourhood team. I'm not aware that the police were actually in the area that night doing pub checks, and I don't think we can go on the word of licensees to clarify that. And in respect of the visit on Friday, I just wanted to confirm, and it might sound finicky, but it's actually Sergeant Green, the sergeant for the area, and PC Emily Brown, who were at the meeting, who is also the neighbourhood PC for the area. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Nicola. Member's point of view, if you could,
Thank you, Chair. Just a little bit of clarification, if I can. What is the capacity of the Wincanton venue?
So I have no idea. I know the capacity was asked of the applicant. We then asked for the capacity when we were at the venue on Friday, and the staff working at the venue didn't know what the capacity was. We've tried to make contact with the owners of the building to establish that capacity, and unfortunately we haven't been able to contact anybody.
Okay, thank you.
just before Simon goes on there from the chair, couldn't I carry on? Surely Freedom Leisure, who run the process, the leisure process at the venue, should be able to answer that question.
So they were asked on the day. They couldn't answer that question.
Thank you, Nicola. Sorry, Simon.
Okay, no problem, Chair. Okay, it was stated earlier that the tickets were available via a website and a Facebook site, and I think the phrase was family and friends. So, do you operate an age restriction for people coming to your white-collar boxing events?
Our boxing events are family friendly, so they're from 6 years old to however old they can be to manage to get there. We have junior fighters, so they have siblings, they want to come along and support their brothers and their sisters, and obviously parents of these children obviously bring their family as well.
Thank you. But there is no control over the resale of tickets?
It would be impossible to control that, but we do take ID checks on the door and solely looking out for potential known troublemakers or anybody that's on our blacklist.
Okay, thank you for that. There are a couple of other questions. It's actually to both sides in this. How many door staff? I'm going to assume a number of 496 because that's the only number we've been given for this. So bearing in mind that I don't know whether that's an accurate number or not, how many door staff, trained door staff would you expect? Would you supply as event security? Because there's been no change in the number, we are told. There's been no change. It's 12 SIA approved staff. And how many staff would you expect as the authority, the police authority, to manage a crowd of 496? And again, that's the number that we've been given, so it's the only number I can use.
I'll ask Mr. Monnier to answer first.
The gentleman from event security.
Sorry, the event, sorry.
Okay, well, as you well know, we're there to uphold and enforce the Licensing Act 2003. So our objective is antisocial behaviour and deal with anyone that's heavily intoxicated or intoxicated on the premises. So working on the ratio, under due diligence and management of health and safety, you would expect 1 security per 50. Now, on the basis, it all has to be done with a risk assessment. We're expecting, you know, the fighters, what clientele we're expecting, the alcohol fueled, what the intelligence is that we received. Does that all make sense? So, brilliant, excellent. My apologies, Councillor. So, it's all done on a risk assessment basis of how many security, where we need to place them at strategic points, and what the event is.
So to be clear on this, you're suggesting that if the ratio is 50 to 1, or 1 to 50, I don't know which way around you want to look at that, and therefore you're suggesting that by having 12, you are actually, the ratio is slightly higher. your ratio is a better ratio?
Yes, normally you can work on a basis 1 per 100, you can work on a 1 per 50. There is no, if you look further into any guidance, there is no perceived of how many security you need per person. What
That
it says
the
is,
heart of the question.
yep, my apologies. So you're asking me, am I bringing in more security than on the ratio?
Patently you are. If the ratio, if it's 496 people in the building, by having 12 staff, you are at a slightly better ratio than 1 to 50.
Well, that is absolutely
Yeah.
correct, due to the element of the risk of the sporting event and then the high fueled.
I was asking the authority how many they would expect to see at an event like this, which you, by your own admission, is a relatively high potential for disruption because of the type of event it is and the clientele that you're expecting to see there and the emotiveness of that meeting, of the event.
That's correct.
I wondered whether the constabulary had a view on what their ratio, the ideal ratio, would be from their point of view. So this question was to both sides.
Yeah, well, we've had one answer. If you could just answer it briefly, Nicola, on that one, because, you know, I don't want to be going in and around the room because, going out of sequence because, but it is relevant.
As outlined, there's no legislation around how many must be provided. It's all dealt with via risk assessment. It can obviously go from 1 to 50, as outlined to you. You know, it gets to a stage of how many SIA do you actually put at something that becomes uncontrollable. We can't keep putting SIA just to control an event. Thank you.
Through you, thank you, Chair. You stated in your evidence to the hearing that you have a note of individuals who have been barred by your staff for poor behaviour. How do your staff know that it is family X? How do they know that those people are in that queue, waiting to come in?
This would actually go back to John here. It's on information received. It's on intelligence. Yes, we can revert back to what we call the
If it's,
pub watch.
could I interrupt there? If
Yep.
it's missing, I want to stick to the question. I mean, if Mr. Lemonier can, if it's more in his remit, can you answer Councillor Crowe's question?
Okay, so basically, anybody that's caused trouble at our shows or have been involved in trouble, they are on a blacklist between myself and the security. IDs will be checked at the doors. Most of these people are known. Okay.
Sorry, so just so I understand correctly what you said, you check individuals' ID when they get to the door, and that is checked by the door staff against a list. And if Fred Bloggs or Mrs. Miggins rocks up and is on your do not enter list, they're refused entry.
That is correct. Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Simon. Hugh?
First of all, can I applaud you having security as with cameras? My question is, how many of you have got cameras usage?
I have my own personal one. I have a response team that have a dedicated company body-worn camera. So on that night we had, especially for the last incident, we had over 8 body-worn cameras.
Out of 12?
Out of 12, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. The other question is to you, sir, regarding, is this the first time you've had a serious situation happen there? Because this would be your 4th now coming up. So you've had 3 and that was the 3rd one.
So as Nicola and Ian mentioned earlier, well, we've had 3 shows. There was an isolated incident on the 2nd show involving less than 4 people, I believe. And then the last show that we had in May, There's another incident which Ian described from being people from Yeovil and a traveller family that created an incident out in the car park later on that evening. So we've had two isolated incidents between 3 shows.
As your premises holder, which I was very pleased to hear that, where were you when all this was kicking off?
Thank you for your question. So both of these incidents, so the first incident on the second show happened in the car park. So I was still within the main building. Obviously, I have to oversee the safety of absolutely everybody, from the spectators, to fighters, to bar staff, to everybody. So the security take away a lot of responsibility from me because they're there to look after the crowd. So I was inside the main building whilst they were dealing with the incident outside. It's exactly the same as the second incident on the third show. I was inside making sure everybody was kind of shutting things down because the later the night goes on, the more security are outside of the premises just to help disperse the crowds, because the crowds disperse over the evening. There's not 500 people leaving at 11 o'clock. You know, people come there, they watch their children or watch their fighters. Once they've finished, they normally loiter for another half an hour and then they go. So by the time the end of the night comes, there's normally half the amount of spectators there than there was at the beginning.
More questions, Hugh? No, you're...
Well, it's just myself and Ian. I don't have any other...
That's fine. Well, the item on the agenda is for you to present your case to this, to us as a subcommittee of the Licensing Authority who has to make a decision, and to everyone else in the room, and to be able to answer any questions which may be applicable, which may come from that statement.
Okay, so you'd like me to make a statement now about my applicant? Okay, perfect. Okay, sorry. Okay, thank you very much. So as we all know, I've applied for a license for what would be our 4th show. Yes, I totally understand and appreciate the increased potential of there being any incidents with there being a boxing show. Hence, we increase our security to more than what would be considered normal. Over the 3 shows, we've had probably about 1,400 people between those 3 shows. So the numbers that have been mentioned regarding isolated incidents within 2 evenings basically equates to 1.3% of the spectators being troublesome. So in my mind, that means we're operating at 98.7% safe, fun, happy, entertaining evening, from young children to adults and OAPs, all absolutely loving their evening. It's an evening of entertainment, which brings the community together, and it gives aspirations for the people within the boxing gym to look forward to. Now, in my experience of these shows, I'm there, like Ian, he's been there, eyes on the ground for every single one. Yes, they have. They've got bigger, they've got better, they've got safer, and more enjoyable. It's not just about the shows for me. The shows for me is like the icing on the cake for the boxers. You know, I don't know, but society seems to be incredibly stressed, frustrated, and angry at the moment, and mental health's not at the best. So I have a lot of people in the boxing gym that struggle with a lot of things, whether it's mental health, whether it's physical health. I've got people that have stopped taking illegal substances, stopped drinking, stopped smoking, and they've really turned their life around in the boxing gym. I've got children that have been contacted by their parents and that they've stopped self-harming since they've been going to the boxing gym, and they're doing so much better at school. You know, I'm also a mentor to 3 of my juniors at the boxing gym up at their school, because they respect me and they've requested that I would be their mentor. Now, these are the people which to some people may be considered troublesome, but they've all got great potential. They've all got great potential, everybody does. And I don't judge anybody. Yes, somebody might have been in trouble before, whether it was last year or the year before. I give everybody a clean slate. Everybody goes into that gym for a reason. Not granting the license, so the 13 people that have been training their butts off for 12 to 14 weeks, sacrificing, not going out, not drinking, ask my friend's birthday, they've literally transformed themselves, not just from losing weight, but for feeling better mentally. I don't know, I'll be quite concerned of the detrimental effects on those people that have dedicated so much. If this show, nobody knows about this meeting, right? Nobody knows about it. So there's going to go one of 2 ways. We either walk out of here with a license or we don't. And if I don't, I have to tell everybody that's involved that it's not happening. And I don't know how they will receive that. I'm not just there about putting the shows on and making loads of money. I reinvest every single time. Over the 3 shows that we've put on, we've raised over £3,000 for not just local businesses, but local clubs. We raised £915 for the Balsam Centre. I work very closely with the Balsam Centre, who works for the council in Wincanton. I raised £865 for the air ambulance on the 2nd show. And on the 3rd show that we've just done, I think we raised about £1,000 for the Wincanton Cricket Club, because it needed some remedial work done to the building. So every show, we donate into the community. I'm all about positive mental attitude, positive physicality, and giving people opportunities and chances. So I've never been in a situation like this. I've never been in a room like this. I don't know if it comes across, but I'm really nervous. But I'm incredibly passionate about what I do. And yes, there has been 2 isolated incidents. I totally understand that. And we strive for 100% safety. But you show me a pub, a club, or anything around the country that involves alcohol that has 100% no trouble. You know, I'd struggle to see that myself. So what I would be concerned about, it's not even about this license, it's not even about the show. So we've got 98.7% good, safe, happy, okay? So if anybody wants to try and do something, or try and be different, or try and put something on for the community, and they're told you can't do that because there's a 1.3% chance there might be trouble. Now, I tell you, everybody in this room, if you had a life-saving operation and you went to the NHS and they gave you a 98.7% survival rate, you would take that operation. You wouldn't not do it just because of the 1.3% chance it might go wrong. Nobody would. And Wincanton's a tiny little town, has about 8,500 people, okay? And it's constantly growing, like everywhere. Building sites going up left, right, and centre. And they've just secured a contract with Rockin' Ribs up at the racecourse, which brings in thousands of people to Wincanton. It just happened last month. It's been happening for 2 years now. Now, Wincanton Boxing Gym, yes, we hope there might be 496 people there. Realistically, the way the tickets have sold at the moment, we're currently at 317 people. I'll be surprised if we surpass 400. So I always go for the highest number, but it's normally there or thereabouts. So we've built up relationships with not just boxing clubs, but communities from Burnham-on-Sea, Bridgewater, Yeovil, Bournemouth, and all of these people are coming to Wincanton to support what we are doing. Now, what's the point in all of my fighters training if they can't have an opposition to showcase their skills and what they've learned in the boxing ring? And just as they support us, we travel around the country, predominantly the southwest. Furthest north we've been is Chippenham, to support other clubs and other promoters. You go into a boxing gym, You can have everybody in there, police officers, lawyers, known troublemakers, and everybody absolutely loves it. It gives them some sort of confidence, and it gives them a spring in their step. And I could get hundreds of testimonials that would prove that. So the light at the end of the tunnel is a boxing show. It's not the be-all. 99% of people that come into my gym are there for mental reasons, physical reasons.
Thank you very much
Thank
for that.
you.
I mean, apart from your colleague next to you, is there, well, there's no other witness in the room who want to speak on your behalf, but does your colleague who's sitting next to you wish to speak from the witness point of view on behalf of Mr. Lemonia?
The amount of times that I've done the boxing for, provided the security service for John, is that working easy? My apologies. I will give you a prime example how he believes with the safety aspect of looking after.
I realise you're going to give examples and everything for that, but could I ask you to stick to this specific application, if you can, please, and just give a rough outline that you've done it for many years or whatever it is you have done, if you see where I'm coming from.
Okay, yeah, I'll make it short and sweet. My apologies. Okay, so the amount of years that I've provided the security services for John, as I said to you before, for his application, he believes in safety. The safety aspect is that it doesn't matter how much money he throws into it, but he has a duty of care to look after all these applicants, his boxers, his staff, and make sure that people have a good time. Yes, as regards, we do know that there was a few isolated incidents, but as John said, out of all those events that have attended, they have been, yes, one has been a GBH, we understand, a serious of assault, and the other one, can I ask, does this have a detrimental effect on the local community after the boxing was dispersed, should I say? All I can say is that it will be a shame if this boxing event does not go ahead, because it will affect the community and as well as the other boxing organisations. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter as regards to security.
Thank you very much for that. Is there any questions to the applicants from the floor, officers or police?
Sir, can I ask a question of the applicant, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, obviously you provided a risk assessment, and you talk about a physical list and that you're going to be IDing everybody on the door. So obviously what you haven't alluded to is any forms of identification that you will be accepting. This this list of people that are blacklisted, where is this list? Is it a written list? Has it been provided to the police? Who's going to have sight of this list? And who is actually the, where are these details recorded? And who's managing that list? Where have those names come from? That's my question, sir.
Mr. Lemonia?
Thank you for your question. Yes, this list does exist. This list is a physical list that myself and Ian, the head of the security company, have had conversations about. Obviously, whilst I was in the hall and these events were happening, I don't know all of these people. I don't know. Ian does. Ian was there. He had eyes on the ground. So these people, their names are on that list. They will not be allowed back in. As for asking for identification, the list will, I'm not going to have the list out in public to everybody at the show. Of course not. But the people at the front of the house, the two SIA security guards, they will have that list. And they will be responsible, as well as my stewards who are at the front of the desk checking tickets, to correlate or correspond. That if anybody is on that known list, they will be refused entry whether they have a ticket or whether they do not have a ticket. The same principles as pub watch. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And I don't believe there's any more questions there from the floor. I will go on to members now, members of the committee. Have you got any questions? And before I do throw it open, I've got one question, and I'm going to jump the queue this time. You said about the event. The event is a boxing tournament. this is a license hearing for an alcohol license. If you don't get a license, an alcohol license to sell alcohol, the boxing tournament can still go ahead, yes or no?
Technically on paper, yes, it would.
You've answered my question.
Councillor Locke, sorry, can I just say something? The boxing element of it is actually a licensable activity as well. So the Licensing Act talks about where, boxing being one of the falling under regulated entertainment, and regulated entertainment is like in the presence of an audience. So if the temporary event notice kind of did get refused, it would be on both elements for the sale of alcohol and the boxing element of it, because they're both on the same notice.
Rachel, I'm glad I've asked the question because you've clarified that. Thank you very much. Right, I will go to you first this time, Simon.
Not at this stage, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Simon. Really, it's only to applaud you in your reply regarding who's got the note of who's going to come on the site, because that is very confidential. If it gets that out to the general public, you are going to have more aggravation. So, yeah, I was pleased with your reply. Thank you.
Apply, if any, should the application be successful. Each party will be invited to make closing submissions in the following order, which I will start with now. The responsible authority.
Thank you, sir. So we don't believe that any additional information that's been provided by the applicant will reassure the police that there will not be a repeat of the disorder that has been experienced previously. The applicant is reliant upon those same plans that we've seen put into place at previous events. We've been provided with a risk assessment actually worded for crowd trouble, which leaves actually more questions and concerns by the police. It alludes to what we've just heard around this list, but we don't know what this list is, if the list actually exists, or even how many people are on this list. It also talks about that spectators responsible for disorder. It doesn't talk about anybody else that may be involved, whether they won't be allowed access to the building that may have caused issues at previous events. It is appreciated that considerable time has been invested by the participants, but we cannot put this before public safety and the prevention of crime and disorder, and the prevention of and obviously the protection of children from harm, given that this is a family event and children are going to be at this event. These incidents may be described as isolated by the applicant, but they are serious incidents and can have effect on the lives of those victims that are involved. Given the paperwork that we have received, the witness statement from the local policing sergeant, so we cannot support this application at this time.
Thank you, Nicola. Other persons present? No?
Yes. So, like I said, regarding this list, if the police were working with us and they were happy to be at the event, then we would obviously, they could see the list and the names on the people of the evening. Like you said, it's incredibly sensitive information. So that's between me and my security team to date. Regarding Nicola suggesting that people that have been in trouble are people related to that, again, we will only ever blacklist or refuse entry to people who have known to cause trouble. So if people were known to cause trouble don't turn up, but their cousin or their auntie or their brother is there, of course we're not going to refuse them entry, you know. Same as a pub. If somebody was banned from a pub, the family members don't get refused entry to a pub. So again, I give everybody the benefit of the doubt and everybody a clean slate to hopefully have an enjoyable evening. And sadly, yes, the last event, if you took away the Traveller family and the group that came from Yeovil just to support one fighter who lives in Yeovil, there wouldn't have been any trouble. There wouldn't have been any trouble. Apparently there was some sort of turf war between these people that I didn't even know existed. I didn't know these human beings even existed. So if you took them away, there wouldn't have been any incidents. It's absolutely a wonderful evening. And now they're known to us. They're never going to be allowed on the premises or even in the building. And I can only take as many measures as I possibly can. You know, I anticipate as much as I can and I react as best as I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lamonier. Last one I'm going to ask is the licensing officer if you anything further as a closing statement you wish to make.
No, thank you. No, and then I heard earlier you mentioned about the conditions and things like that, and I just wanted to say that there isn't a premises licence for the sports centre, so there wouldn't be any conditions that can be applied to the temporary event notice in this instance. Sorry, sometimes when there is a premises licence in place, it will specify conditions on there, and then when there's an objection to a temporary event notice in a hearing, it is possible for you to attach those conditions to the temporary event notice. However, in this situation, there isn't a premises licence, therefore we can't attach any conditions, or you can't attach any conditions to the temporary event notice.
Thank you for that, Rachel. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, all that remains for me to do is to close this hearing temporarily, and which I will do. And the subcommittee, we will stay within the room, and the legal advisor will stay with us. Everyone else, I would ask to leave the room, and we will deliberate. We will come back with a decision which will be a shortened version of the full written version, which will be sent to you by the legal officer so that you will have an answer today. So thank you all for your contribution and your attendance. And I said, if you'd like to wait out in the area, there's a coffee machine out there if you want to get a drink, and see Nicola's prepared. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Ethan, thank you for waiting. I will just read out a short report which will be sent out to all, a full version will be sent out to all parties shortly. Correct, Dan? Thank you. The result of our deliberations with legal advice. In respect of the temporary event notice received for Wincanton Sports Centre, West Hill Wincanton, BA9 9SP under the Licensing Act 2003, the Licensing Subcommittee has determined that the events on the 12th and 13th of August 2023 should proceed in accordance with the temporary event notices. A written objection notice had been received from Avon and Somerset Police objecting to the application on the grounds of crime and disorder, public safety and the protection of children from harm, their concerns being the crime and disorder experienced at the two previous events organised by the same applicant. The subcommittee noted the objections raised by the police and took into account their submissions. However, they were keen for the event to proceed and supported events of this nature. They took into account the incidents that has occurred at the previous events and were satisfied that the applicant had put measures in place to promote the licensing objectives. The subcommittee approved the applications for the temporary event notice. All parties are reminded that there is a right of appeal against the decision of the licensing authority. Such an appeal is to be made within 21 days of the date of receipt of the formal notice of determination and should be made to the South Somerset Magistrates Court. That is the end of the report at this moment in time, and I say a full written report will be sent to all parties shortly. And once again, just on behalf of the committee and the officers and everyone, I'd just like to thank everyone for their attendance this morning. Thank you very much.